Discover 7 miraculous psalms that bring divine peace and transform your sleep through God's plan. In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, King David found himself ensnared by fear and worry in the ancient city of Jerusalem, where whispers of betrayal and treachery filled the sacred air. The golden walls that once echoed with the sounds of laughter now reverberated with the ominous footfalls of enemies gathering at his gates. The weight of kingship pressed heavily upon his chest, anxiety gnawing at him through the hours of the night, turning the serene splendor of the starlit sky into a suffocating shroud of uncertainty. As twilight deepened into the cool embrace of night, David retreated from the throne, seeking solace in the sacred tent that housed the Ark of the Covenant. As he entered the tent, a flicker of oil lamps illuminated his troubled brow. Kneeling upon the cool stone floor, David poured out his heart before the Almighty, his voice a quiet murmur in the sacred space. O Lord, how long shall my enemy be exalted over me? Psalm 13 verse 2. The tumult of his kingdom mirrored the unrest within his soul, and he grieved the treachery of those he had once called allies. In the quietude, a memory stirred within him, a psalm crafted during calmer days, brimming with the profound truths of God's faithfulness. With trembling hands, he retrieved scrolls, allowing the sacred words to resonate in the stillness. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want, Psalm 23 verse 1. Each syllable rekindled a glimmer of hope, a reminder that his true source of strength rested not in the might of armies but in the gentle guidance of the Lord. As he recited the words, a warmth grew in his heart. The remembrance of God's past deliverances unfolded before him. God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble, Psalm 46 verse 1. David's voice strengthened as he proclaimed the assurance of God's sheltering presence. The images of looming enemies faded, replaced by the steadfast truth of God's unwavering support. So we will not fear, though the earth gives way, Psalm 46 verse 2, fear surrendered before the mighty hand of the Almighty. Yet, shadows of doubt crept back, clawing at the edges of the peace that blossomed within him. The threat felt real, and betrayal lingered like a bitter taste upon his lips. Will you not save me, Lord? He implored, a raw vulnerability crackling in the air around him. The world outside remained dark, reminding him of the turmoil brewing at home, where his own son Absalom plotted against him. In the depths of his anguish, he recalled the words of Psalm 91. He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. It was this place, this divine shelter he craved. But the pain of betrayal festered, and he wrestled with the hurt that threatened to overwhelm him. As dawn approached, a quiet strength surged through David, ignited by the profound truths hidden in the Psalms. Amid the shrill cries of uncertainty, a peace blossomed within a peace that flourished over fear, compelling him to trust in God's perfect plan. Slowly, gradually, he recognized that these Psalms were more than mere words. They were a vibrant call to live anchored in trust, illuminated by the light of God's faithfulness. Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select all notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. With a steady heart, David remained aware of the unresolved tumult surrounding him. What deliverance lay in wait confounded him, yet he felt an insatiable yearning for the divine guidance he had often found in the shadows of worship. With questions lingering and the weight of kingship still pressing upon his shoulders, David transformed his despair into a poignant invitation for divine intervention, as the dawn promised not only light but also the whisper of God's unfolding plan. As the sun rose over the hills surrounding Jerusalem, painting the sky in hues of gold and crimson, King David emerged from the sacred tent, fortified by the words of the Psalms. Each breath felt lighter, infused by a renewed sense of purpose. Yet, within him resided a tumult, heavy with the knowledge of his son's ambition, the shadows of betrayal looming ever closer. Gathering himself, David summoned his council, knowing that the time had come for him to address the unrest rippling through his kingdom. They gathered in the great hall, their faces shadowed by concern as they awaited their king's words. "My friends," he began, his voice steady despite the storm within, "our hearts are burdened by betrayal from within my own house. Absalom seeks to rise against me." The room fell silent, tension thick in the air. His advisor, Ahithophel, a man known for his wisdom, raised his hand to speak. "Sire, we must act swiftly. Let us gather troops and crush this rebellion before it grows." The others murmured in agreement, fear of an insurrection flickering in their eyes. But David, feeling the weight of what he must choose, lifted his palm, stalling the tide of ensuing panic. "Nay," he declared, "for we are called to act in faith, not fear. I will not wage war against my son, nor will I destroy my own kin. Instead, let us seek divine counsel and wisdom, for our strength lies not in our might, but in the Lord." His words resonated, a somber reminder of the grace that must permeate even the darkest of trials. In that moment, David understood that he must not only protect his kingdom but also his son's soul. "Let us go forth, not as adversaries, but as those who seek reconciliation," he proposed, robust hope surging within him. As they prepared to seek Absalom, David turned to a shadow beyond the door. There stood Zadok the priest, carrying with him the Ark of the Covenant. "My king," Zadok called softly, "we shall accompany you. The Lord has promised to be with you in this time of trial." Tears mingled with the dust on David's cheeks. "Keep the ark safe, Zadok. It is to the Lord we must turn. If it is his will that I am to be cast from the throne, then let it be so. For I trust in his unfailing love, and my heart shall sing praises even in the depths of despair." With their hearts prepared, the king and his company journeyed forth to confront his beloved son. As they traversed the path, David poured forth prayers that floated like incense toward heaven, requests for wisdom, for peace, for his son's heart to be softened. Before they could draw near, a messenger appeared on the horizon, running with haste. Dust kicked up around his feet as he arrived, panting heavily. "My lord," he gasped, "Absalom has declared himself king in Hebron. He has drawn to him many men of valor, and they gather against you." A heavy silence enveloped the group, the gravity of his words sinking into their hearts. Fear threatened to snuff out the flickering flame of hope that David had nurtured. But resolute and steadfast, he raised his chin, declaring, "As the Lord lives, so shall I trust in him. The earth may tremble, but God is my fortress." In that moment, deep in his spirit, David understood he was but a vessel in God's divine plot, a mere chapter in a grand narrative penned by the Almighty. Even now, he was setting the stage for redemption, and shadows of despair would dance alongside the light of righteousness. As they approached the outskirts of the city, the sound of murmurs grew louder, an anxious wind cascading through the ranks. Yet, within David, the fervent prayer of Psalm 27 emerged, echoing in his heart, "The Lord is my light and my salvation, whom shall I fear?" Just then, a stirring in the air whispered secrets yet untold, a divine mystery foreshadowing events to unfold. What did God have in store for David and his son? As the echoes of a tumultuous rebellion began to rise, the hands of providence moved ever so subtly, a reminder that through trials and tribulations, his plan was unfolding in ways unseen. The time would soon come for the revelation of a king lost and a kingdom redeemed. As the sun climbed higher, casting its warm embrace upon the land, David stood on the path that led to the gates of his city. The air was thick with tension and unspoken fears, yet he found solace in the stillness of his spirit, for he was aware that the Lord was with him. The Ark of the Covenant, a symbol of God's presence, moved beside him, its golden edges catching the light like a beacon of hope amidst the gathering storm. "Keep your heart strong," David implored his companions, "for our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the mighty works of the darkness that seeks to consume even our own." His eyes, aged and wise, reflected the battles he had fought not just in the field but in his soul. As they reached the city walls, they heard shouts ringing out, the voices of the men influenced by Absalom. The fervor in the air mirrored the turmoil that brewed within David's heart. He could feel the weight of his monarchy shifting like sand beneath his feet. It was in that moment he turned to his faithful followers. "Pray with me," he said, kneeling upon the earth, the dust rising like incense as he bowed low. "Lord of hosts," he cried, his voice resounding with the urgency of a father in distress, "you have called me to lead your people, and I seek your face in this hour. May the hearts of my son and his followers be stirred to peace. May they turn from treachery unto truth." The prayers echoed through the silent air while his companions joined him, beseeching the Lord for intervention. Just then, a familiar figure emerged from the shadows, a messenger bearing tidings from the camp of Absalom. His countenance was grim, and the weight of his words bore heavily upon the assembly. "Your son has gained the hearts of many, O king. The streets are alive with his name." The weight of despair struck David like a thunderclap, yet deep within him, another voice arose, nurturing a flicker of resilience. "It is written, delight yourself in the Lord, and he shall give you the desires of your heart." Psalm 37 verse 4. "I will not be shaken," David declared, rallying the beleaguered spirits surrounding him. As the tension built, Absalom's forces began to march, and they enveloped the city like a dark cloud. David felt a pull upon his spirit, a whisper cascading through the chaos. "Now is the time, O beloved." This unwavering conviction drew him to a deep resolve to leave the city, not in disgrace, but to seek refuge while seeking a higher purpose. "Let us retreat," he commanded, "and in our departure, let it not show cowardice, but as a strategy to safeguard our people and seek God's wisdom." With this proclamation, David led his company away from the walls of Jerusalem, tears glistening in the eyes of those behind him, each step echoing through the chambers of history. As dusk descended, they camped among the olive groves on the hills overlooking Jerusalem. David found himself alone for a moment, the weight of impending confrontation ringing heavy in the silence. He listened, praying fervently, sensing a move of the Spirit yet to unfold. Then he raised his voice unto heaven, "Lord, we are but servants, and you are our shepherd." The stars above began to twinkle like the promises of God, illuminating the canvas of night. "If this cup must pass from me, I ask not to be spared, instead, grant me the eyes to see your sovereign plan." At that very moment, a rustling in the trees revealed a figure, a prophet, Nathan, sent by the Lord to declare revealed truths. "David!" Nathan called, his voice carrying the weight of divine authority. "Listen. For in your trials, the Lord is weaving a tapestry of grace and redemption that will be told for generations. The sun will rise, yet the heart of the Father remains steadfast. Great is your spirit, for out of this conflict shall come forth a testimony of God's unwavering faithfulness." A sacred hush fell over the surrounded men, each heart stirring with the weight of divine reassurance. David's eyes were fixed upon Nathan, now illuminated by understanding beyond his earthly plight. Thus, the stage was set, the pieces moved deftly in the divine chess game of heaven, and David felt the surges of a greater destiny unfolding. What then awaited him beyond this trial? What mysteries rested in the hand of God? The struggle ahead bore the seeds of redemption, yet the heart of mankind would soon feel the quaking tremors of divine purpose as the chapter turned anew. As the evening deepened into a quiet darkness, the air was filled with the scent of olive and the soft rustle of leaves whispering secrets to one another. David, troubled yet steadfast, gathered his men close. Their faces were drawn with worry, yet their hearts beat in unison with the rhythm of faith, knowing their king sought the face of God amidst turmoil. "Brothers," David began, his voice steady despite the night's ominous chill, "tonight, we ask the Lord for strength and guidance. We are but vessels, let our cries rise as incense before him." With that, he beckoned them to kneel beside him. Together, they lifted their voices in unison, praising the Lord who had delivered them time and again from the hands of their enemies. Each word woven with intent, their fervent prayers ascended like flames towards the firmament, beseeching divine intervention against the tide of treachery that threatened their home. "Great is our God, who is a refuge and strength, an ever-present help in trouble," David proclaimed, his heart echoing the words of the psalmist. Inspired, He began to sing a new song, a melody of hope breaking through the shadows. Though an army encamp against me, my heart shall not fear, though war should rise against me, in this will I be confident. As the night enveloped them, David's heart swelled with the remembrance of God's promises. Lord, he prayed, you have heard my cry, and I trust you will guide my path. Let my son, Absalom, behold the folly before him and turn back to wisdom. A rustling nearby caught his attention. Suddenly, a man from the shadows emerged, Hushai, a loyal friend and counselor, rushing to give report. My king, he said hastily, Absalom's forces grow bold. But I bring counsel, a strategy that might yet save the kingdom. Speak, Hushai, David urged, his heart racing with the weight of their predicament. We must confuse Absalom, and I plan to go among them, to sow seeds of discord. The hearts of men are swayed by words, let us turn them against their leader before they fully commit to his cause. Hushai's eyes gleamed with fervor, and as he spoke, the glimmer of hope ignited in David's heart. So it was that they resumed their plotting under the watchful eyes of the stars, each man feeling the tension of uncertainty clash with the promise of divine providence. The hours stretched long, each minute pregnant with the weight of choices yet to unfold. Meanwhile, in the camp of Absalom, darkness reigned in the guise of arrogance. For as he stood among his followers, the shouts of pride rang louder than the whispers of wisdom. Let me lead the charge. Absalom commanded, his heart inflated with the sweetness of rebellion. For this son, once beloved, now wore the crown of defiance against the father who cherished him. But unbeknownst to him, there were forces at play unseen, a clash of divine will holding the tether of destiny in its hallowed grip. As dawn broke over the hills, the thoughts and intentions of men began to intertwine with the decree of the Almighty. With every heartbeat, David understood that his son's destiny was laced with the strands of the father's legacy, a truth set into motion long before the threads began to unravel. May his heart yet turn, David whispered, casting his gaze towards Jerusalem. For in the stillness of this night, I sense the beginning of a new chapter written by the hand of God. Behold, my son, your choices shall not bind you eternally, there is still grace to be found. And amidst the olive trees where they stood, hope flickered, feeble yet relentless, weaving through the fabric of despair, bridging the distance between father and son. What narrative awaited them within the folds of God's purpose? What voices would yet sing of redemption in the midst of reckoning? The answers lay hidden in his sovereign plan, waiting patiently to unfold. As the sun's first rays painted the horizon with shades of gold and crimson, David knelt in quiet contemplation, the weight of his thoughts heavy upon him. The voices of his men no longer echoed in the stillness, instead, the sigh of the morning breeze became a gentle reminder of God's mercies that were new each day. Lamentations 3 verses 22-23. Beneath the trees, a sense of urgency began to permeate the air, an unspoken anticipation of the conflicts to come. Hushai, full of resolve, broke the silence. My king, the time for action draws near. Absalom's pride shall not go unchallenged. We must prepare to counter his rebellion with wisdom that comes from our Lord. I, Hushai, David responded, rising with renewed strength. The fate of this kingdom rests not only on the might of our arms but on the faithfulness of our God. Let us seek him once more. They assembled anew in a circle, their hands extending towards heaven as one voice echoed through the valley. O Lord of hosts, we cry unto thee. Grant us discernment, empower our hearts, and turn the hearts of the people away from strife. Each invocation became a thread in the tapestry of their plea, weaving hope into the fabric of imminent battle. Meanwhile, unbeknownst to David, Absalom gathered his council, his spirit intoxicated by the allure of imminent victory. Let us march swiftly to seize this traitor king, he declared, fervor lacing his words. With my leadership, we shall triumph surely. Who will follow me? His followers erupted in chants, the fervor of rebellion rippling through the air, uniting them under a banner of misguided loyalty. But God's eyes watched from on high, measuring the heart of each man, the proud and the humble, the faithful and the treacherous. As if stirring the winds of destiny, he positioned Hushai among Absalom's ranks. My, How the Lord delights in confounding the wisdom of the wise. In the shadows, Hushai observed the movements of Absalom's camp, and as night approached once more, he approached the rebellious son with fervent resolve. All hail, Absalom! Let me counsel you. The heart of your father is loyal and fierce, a lion in battle. It is not wise to pursue him hastily, he will rally his forces like a flood. As Hushai spoke, his words wrapped around Absalom, drawing confusion into his heart. Instead, let us take time to reflect, gather your strength, and strike decisively. For surely, all Israel will rally to you if you show wisdom and patience. The counsel pleased Absalom, yet a flicker of hesitation danced in his eyes. Sensing his wavering confidence, Hushai prayed silently, O Lord, guide this heart away from folly, let it not be hardened in pride. Back at David's camp, as stars began to pierce the dark veil of night, hope glimmered faintly. David gazed upon his loyal men, much like a father surveying his children. Remember, he spoke, his voice low but strong, the battle belongs to the Lord, Exodus 14 verse 14. All we can do is hold fast to the promise that he will deliver us from the hands of our enemy. The night thickened, but in the hearts of those gathered, a resolve was forged, a new one that trusted in the sovereign hand of God, a hand that carved paths through darkness towards the dawn of victory. As the dawn would soon arise to scatter the darkness, a palpable tension rested upon the horizon, whispering of choices yet to be made, destinies yet to collide. Could it be that even amidst rebellion, God's grace would work miracles unseen? What awaited them within the chambers of his divine purpose, where the past and future entwined like threads of an intricate tapestry, only time would reveal. As the first light of dawn began to break, a hush settled over the land, a brief interlude before the storm that loomed on the horizon. David, with renewed resolution, gathered his men around him, their faces marked with determination and trepidation. Brothers, he began, his voice steady, the Lord has not abandoned us. We stand under his banner, united as one. Though our enemy rages, our hearts remain steadfast in the hope of his promises. His words washed over them like a balm, drawing strength from shared conviction. As they prepared for the day, a messenger arrived, breathless and distressed. My lord, word comes from the men of Absalom. They gather and their numbers swell like the tide. David's heart sank, but he sought the face of God in silence, a warrior's spirit ignited by the spark of divine faith. We shall not flee, nor shall we submit to fear. Our God is with us, as he was with Moses before Pharaoh. We will have courage. Meanwhile, Absalom reveled in his growing power, convinced that victory lay within his grasp. My advisers, let us not delay. We shall chase after David with fervor, his days are numbered, he boasted, pride swelling within him. Yet amidst his fervor, a shadow flickered in the depths of his heart, an unsteady whisper of doubt. As the armies prepared for battle, Hushai, ever the loyal friend of David, made his way stealthily back to his king's camp. O King David, he bowed, the counsel I offered to Absalom has found favor in his eyes. But O Lord, grant me wisdom still, that I may see your hand at work. Together, David and Hushai devised a plan, reinforcing the strongholds of their defenses and gathering the faithful to join their cause. Let us strike decisively, but with the patience of the Lord, waiting for the moment appointed by heaven, David declared, casting his eyes heavenward with unyielding faith. With every passing hour, the tension grew thicker, the sound of armor clashing and men shouting echoed like thunder on the battlefield. As the first arrows flew, David cried out, Lord, may it not be blood that stains this ground, but your glory that reigns. Deliver Israel, O God, from this rebellion. His warriors surged forward with a cry, hearts emboldened by the presence of their king and the promise of divine deliverance. But in the midst of the mayhem, Absalom, blinded by vanity, found himself in a darkening grove, entangled by the branches of fate, his pride becoming his downfall. The Lord's hand moved, unseen yet assured, as a twist of destiny took hold. And a great dread seized the hearts of those loyal to Absalom, chaos reigned as the threads of their confidence frayed. Where is your leader? They cried, their voices laced with fear, as they searched for Absalom, knowing well that the heart of their rebellion throbbed with the beat of a king's son. Thus the battle became more than a skirmish, it transformed into a clash of wills, God against pride, faith against rebellion. As the sun climbed higher, light bathed the battlefield, and the hearts of men were revealed, choices weighed against their eternal worth. What fate awaited Absalom, entangled in the snares of his own making? For even in the heart of disobedience, God's purposes were unwavering. Would there emerge a path to redemption for a wayward son, or was the hour of reckoning at hand? The sovereign plan of the Almighty loomed large, a mystery intertwining choice, consequence, and destiny, awaiting its revelation in due time. As the battle raged, the skies darkened, and the winds howled, carrying with them the cries of warriors clashing for their destinies. David stood firm, his heart a fortress of resolve, though shaken by the shifting tides of conflict. He raised his voice to the Lord, pleading, "O God of Israel, you who have been my help, be my stronghold in this hour of trial. Let your mighty hand uphold us against the rising waves of rebellion." His men steadied their resolve, fortified by his faith, as they pressed on toward the tumult. With every strike of a sword and the thud of arrows against shields, they surged forward, driven by the hope that the Lord would deliver them. The sound of battle was a chaotic hymn of desperation and valor, each note echoing a prayer for divine intervention. Meanwhile, in the depths of the grove, Absalom struggled, his golden hair entangled in the branches of an oak tree, a chilling reminder of his vanity. The pride that had surged within him now bore the weight of punishment. His loyal followers, having seen their leader ensnared, faltered and turned upon themselves, fear pooling in their hearts. "What shall we do without our king?" they murmured, doubt clouding their minds. In that moment of emotional upheaval, Ahithophel, the betrayer, spoke with an edge of panic, "Flee, for Absalom has no true power over this day. His end draws near, and with it, yours." The whispers of defeat danced among the ranks of Absalom's army, where once there had been fervor now lingered only dread. Yet amidst the chaos, David's heart was swift to intercede. He sent word to Joab, his commander, with the charge, "Deal gently with the young man Absalom for my sake. He is my son, and I seek not his life, but rather his return." The weight of kingship pressed down upon David as he longed for reconciliation over retribution, the legacy of his love shining through the fiercest of battles. "Do not despair, O faithful ones. Hushai called to the men about him as they braced for another clash. "The God of our fathers fights with us. Remember his promises to us, the covenant unbroken from generation to generation. Our trust is in him." His words were a balm, igniting a flicker of hope as they rallied under the banner of David once more. As evening approached, the shadows lengthened, and the derisive din of battle began to quiet, leaving only the rustle of leaves and the soft cry of men. It was then they heard the sound of hoofbeats. A swift messenger galloped forth, breathless and filled with news. "Victory is at hand," he proclaimed with fervor. "Absalom has fallen. The tide of rebellion has turned." David's heart sank anew at the sound of his son's fate. What of Absalom? Is he safe? Did he live through the clash? He cried, a father's heart breaking against the tide of victory. "Tell me, for I cannot rejoice without knowing." The messenger's face turned grave, and he stammered, "O king, the young man was caught, and now he has met his end." With each word, the weight of sorrow pressed down on David until he fell to the ground, tears spilling from his eyes for the son he could not save. "O Absalom, my son! My son! Would I had died instead of you!" The echo of his mourning resonated like a dirge across the battlefield, a lament for lives lost, for promises unfulfilled. In that moment of despair, the divine narrative unfolded with a heavy blanket of grief, and the mystery of God's sovereignty lingered in the air. For in the depths of loss, a path to redemption was yet waiting to be revealed. What transform could arise from such sorrow? Would the kingdom know restoration, or was there a deeper purpose unfolding in the heart of this divine tragedy? The answers lay hidden in the hearts of men and the eternal promises of the one who reigns above all. As David wept for his son, the air around him grew thick with grief. The sound of his lament filled the valley, resonating through the hearts of those who had fought with valor. Each soldier stood still, the weight of the king's sorrow pressing down upon them, as they bore witness to the depths of a father's love. Their eyes turned inward, and they too began to feel the aching loss of a young man who once carried aspirations of sovereignty. Joab, sensing the shifting tide of unity among David's men, approached his king. "My lord," he spoke gently, "you must rise. Your sorrow gives strength to the enemy. We have suffered much this day, but in this moment, we must not succumb to despair. You are our king, and the God of Israel still reigns over all." David lifted his tear-streaked face, his heart torn between love and duty. In that sadness, he began to recall the promises of the Lord, and how even amidst trials, God's ultimate plan marches forward. He took a deep breath, firming his resolve. "You are right, Joab. We have won a great battle today, yet the cost was dear. Our hearts will carry this weight, yet I must remember the covenant of the Lord. His ways are higher than our ways, and in him lies our hope." With those words, David gathered his warriors once more. "O men of Judah! This day, let not the tears of mourning consume us. For though we grieve, our God is still a God of resurrection. Let us honor Absalom's memory by seeking the Lord's face, and renewing our strength in him, who will lead us through the shadows of despair." At once, the men began to gather, some still shaken, but all united in their devotion to David and the promise of God's faithfulness. They echoed their king's declarations, hearts swelled with renewed hope as they lifted their voices in praise to the God who hears their cries, who walks with them through the valley of the shadow of death. Psalm 23 verse 4. As the sun began to set on the horizon, hues of crimson and gold heralded the conclusion of the day. The people looked to David, a leader shaped by the fires of trial, a father caught in the tensions of love and duty, but one who sought the heart of God. Yet even as the shadows grew long, whispers of unrest lingered in the air, unresolved and heavy. What would be the fate of Israel now? The nation mourned for the lost son of the king, but who would rise to bear the weight of leadership? Whispers of plots and plans coiled in the shadows, as remnants of Absalom's followers scattered, plotting potential vengeance and power plays unseen. The tension thickened, granting an ominous foreboding to the very fabric of David's kingdom. In the hearts of men, the question remained, would God's hand reveal clarity or chaos in the coming days? What new trials awaited, and how might God's great purpose unfold from this tragedy? In the quiet of the evening, an unsettling thought crept into David's mind, a prophecy unfulfilled tugging at his spirit. The promise of a throne, of a lineage that would bridge heaven and earth, burned brightly beneath the ashes of earthly sorrow. Could this tragic turn of events be the very crucible through which God would forge his ultimate plan? David closed his eyes, seeking solace and wisdom from the Lord, whispering within his heart, "What shall arise from the depths of our mourning, O Lord? Reveal your will unto us, for our hope rests in you alone." And thus, the stage was set for a new chapter, one yet shrouded in divine mystery, waiting for the dawn to unveil the sovereign purpose entwined within the heart of God. But behold, in the days that followed, the kingdom became a tapestry woven with sorrow and strife. As whispers of dissent grew louder among the people, the air crackled with the tension of uncertainty. David's heart remained heavy, burdened by the loss of his son and the rift that had formed within Israel. In the hills surrounding Jerusalem, the remnants of Absalom's supporters emerged from the shadows. Seeking to stoke the embers of rebellion, they began to spread tales of dissent, casting doubt upon David's rule. One among them, a man named Sheba, raised his voice and proclaimed, "We have no part in David. Let us choose a new captain, one who will lead us to glory." With this rallying cry, discontent swept through the land, as tribes turned their eyes from the grieving king, seeking the siren call of rebellion. David, now aware of the growing tumult, summoned his trusted advisers. "What shall we do?" he asked them, his voice thick with anguish and determination. "Must we once more face the sword of division among our people?" Joab, faithful and resolute, nodded at the king. "We must quell this insurrection before it breaks the bonds of unity." I will gather your faithful men and pursue Sheba, lest his treachery consumes us all. And so, Joab set forth, a fierce fire igniting within him, intent on silencing the voice of revolt that threatened David's throne. Meanwhile, the king withdrew to the palace, his heart weighed down by the burden of leadership, yet within that burden, he sought the Lord earnestly. He knelt before the altar, calling upon God, pouring out his soul in prayer, seeking guidance in these turbulent times. Psalm 51 verse 10. Lord, you who gave me the strength to rule, grant me the wisdom to navigate this storm. For I am but a shepherd, guiding your flock. Let not my steps falter as I pursue your will. As the days turned to dusk, Sheba gathered strength, rallying men to his cause, a dark shadow creeping ever closer to Jerusalem. The news reached David's ears, and he declared to his people, "Let us not be divided. We must stand together as children of Israel. The God of our fathers will fight for us, and in him, we place our trust." Yet, as David spoke, fear lingered in the hearts of many, the memories of Absalom's rebellion were fresh and tender. The men of Israel grew anxious, their unity fraying. In the stillness of the night, a voice echoed through David's chamber, an unexpected visitor. "Gospel of good news, O king." It was the wise woman of Abel, her presence a balm in the midst of tumult. Is it not the way of the Lord to turn the hearts of men? He can use this discontent to bring forth his purpose. David listened intently, sensing the profound wisdom in her words. "What do you counsel?" he asked, a flicker of hope igniting within him. "Let us approach Joab diplomatically. Deal with Sheba not through force alone, but with wisdom." "A city spared is better than a city lost to the sword," she replied. With newfound clarity, David sent word to Joab, urging him to consider peace before bloodshed. "For the heart of our nation, we must pursue reconciliation," he entreated. As Joab prepared his men, David's faith deepened. He sensed that even in this darkness, God was weaving a tapestry of hope. While the storm raged, might the Lord orchestrate a new beginning from the ashes of discord? And thus, the dawn approached, casting a light upon a land in turmoil. Would unity arise from despair? As David pondered these matters, he remained ever aware that God's sovereign hand was moving, orchestrating events beyond human understanding. The path ahead lay shrouded in mystery, a divine plan waiting to be unearthed at the crossroads of conflict and faith. In the aftermath of tension and trial, the kingdom of Israel stood on the precipice of potential reconciliation. David's heart, heavy with the loss of Absalom, now faced yet another tempest. Sheba's rebellious call had echoed across the land, sparking the fires of division once more. But in the deep October nights, under the light of 1,000 stars, David knelt once more before the Lord, whispering prayers from the depths of his soul. "O Lord, our refuge and strength, grant us wisdom to steer this nation toward unity," David implored, his voice trembling but resolute. "For though the enemy seeks to divide, I trust in your sovereign hand to guide us through the storm." As he prayed, a profound stillness enveloped him, a whisper of divine peace that reminded him of the shepherd's care guiding him through the wilderness. Thus fortified by faith, David sent emissaries across the land, calling the weary and afraid to lay down their weapons and unite. "You are the children of Israel," he proclaimed, his words resounding like the rolling thunder upon the hills. "Join me in seeking peace rather than further shedding of blood. Sheba's rebellion may seem bold, but our strength lies not in numbers, but in the Lord Almighty who is our fortress." In response to David's call, a swelling wave of loyalty surged among the men of Judah, rekindled by their king's passionate plea for unity. "We shall stand with you, O king. For your heart has been our strength," they declared, rallying for the cause of their beloved leader. At that moment, a flame of courage ignited in the hearts of those weary from strife, the promise of hope was rekindling. Meanwhile, Joab, mindful of David's counsel, drew together his forces. He approached the city of Abel, where Sheba had taken refuge, the sun casting its golden glow upon the scene like the hand of God guiding them. "You there! Open your gates!" Joab cried, his voice a mixture of authority and persuasion. "King David seeks peace. Lay down this rebellion, lest you face the might of his reign. Realizing the precariousness of their choice, the citizens of Abel shared worried glances. After whispers and murmurs among themselves, a woman rose, an embodiment of wisdom and courage. "Hear me," she called, voice echoing against the walls, "let not the spirit of rebellion taint the hearts of our people. For we are kin to the King David. Let us not yield our city to darkness but instead seek the light of peace." Inspired by her words, the people of Abel responded, "Let us counsel together. We must find another way." Thus, the stage was set for a divine intersection. Joab and the wise woman entered negotiations, calling upon the very king whose blood had bound them in reign. In this moment of confrontation, Sheba was betrayed not by swords or arrows, but by the very people he sought to rule. The collective hearts turned against him, refusing to allow the darkness to spoil their covenant with God. And so, the tides turned with swiftness and grace. Sheba was captured, his rebellion cut short not with violence but through the indomitable bond of love for God as appointed king. The sound of victory filled the air, but deeper still, within David's heart, a profound understanding blossomed. He received news of Sheba's end, but his sorrow lingered for the son he could not save. In a moment of reflection, David confronted the weight of his grief in the light of the God who redeems. "Lord, take this sorrow and weave it into a greater purpose," he prayed fervently. "May my reign be marked by grace, ensuring that future generations witness not only my own trials but the redemption forged through them." With the kingdom stabilized and the rebellion quelled, David's heart swelled with contemplation. "We shall take our burdens and transform them into offerings," he declared, leading the people in a great solemn assembly. The nation gathered to honor the legacy of love and resilience, presenting their tribulations before the Lord as sacrifices of hope. And as they worshipped, the skies began to part, light breaking through the clouds, illuminating a path of redemption. The cries of grief were turned to songs of praise, as the people rejoiced in the faithfulness of their God. "Great is our God, from him rises strength, from him flows healing." David, overwhelmed by the tides of emotion, stood before his people, eyes glittering with tears of both sorrow and gratitude. "This day, we remember Absalom," he uttered, "a father's love pouring forth. Though he strayed on paths of rebellion, we honor the bond that once was. And from this moment, I declare that we seek reconciliation, both among ourselves and within our hearts." With renewed vigor, the kingdom blossomed once more. Peace flooded the land, fabric woven with threads of grief, love, and redemption. God's purpose shone brighter than the darkness, revealing a narrative far beyond earthly understanding. In every heart echoed the promise of healing, and the story of God's unyielding grace became engraved upon the annals of history. And so, the people declared, "For we are one, united under the banner of the Lord, steadfast in his love." As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden hue upon the land, David could finally rest, assured that the Lord was at the heart of it all, transforming strife into testimony, a sacred testament for generations to come. And now, dear ones, it is time for you to respond. You need to subscribe now to stay connected to God's Word and not miss these powerful biblical stories that transform lives. Leave a like now to help spread God's truth through the algorithm, reaching more hearts in need of His grace. Comment below with your spiritual reflections. How has this story impacted your journey of faith? And don't wait even one more second to share this powerful testimony with at least 5 friends. They need to hear these life-changing truths. Together, we can witness the unfolding of God's plan in many lives as we stand united in His love.